virtual cake is awesome because you don't have the downside of the calories. So it's fantastic.
That's so true.
Virtual.
You could get a cupcake too.
Yeah, so I will suggest that next week we try to do some kind of design sprint for the virtual cake, because it would be awesome for everyone's health and pockets. Ours.
Very good. Hi, Pak Chu, but that's not your name, I think. I do want to hear it in Cantonese because I'm not used to saying Cantonese names in English. Please tell me how to pronounce your name.
Hi there. Hey, lovely to meet everyone. I'm Pak, and the pronunciation in Cantonese is Bat. So my full name is Paklin, and it's Batlin, which means hundreds of spins.
Batlin. Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. 5 o'clock. Ready to start, everybody? Yep.
Yep.
Can we say no? Is there a no option?
Is there a no out there?
Okay, we're out.
Well, today these are our guests, Jeroen Timmer and Els Dragt, and now I stop sharing. I'm not starting. I'm going to stop sharing and see what this does. Right. Hello, everybody. A very, very big welcome for all of you coming back on Wednesday. Where are you exactly for the newcomers? You have landed on this very experimental learning platform, a platform for people like you, me, who want to describe ourselves as experimentalists, innovators, co-creators, and facilitators of change. And for change, we need to feel forward. That's something we did embrace. And we also said failing forward for us is something that we do because there is no other way. You feel at the right place here, then stay. And if you don't feel at the right place now, do stay too and be with us. Today, we will not have breakout rooms. We are going to do exercises in the plenary session. So that's a little bit different. And after doing that, we will open the backstage to have a chat on what happened in the hour before that. Be aware that we record the session. So choose for yourself how you want to be seen or heard. And so today, I already show you the names of our guests. We have Jeroen Timmer. He's founder of Envelope Book, and he believes in the circular economy. He loves to keep stuff that we throw away like paper, picking it up and making beautiful products out of it again. And he has an international orientation for this country, Japan. Then we also have Els. Els is a trend researcher, writer, trainer, and she wrote this book, How to Research Trends. And while she was doing her research, people kept asking her questions, also asking her, where can we find material to ask better questions? Els is very kind. She said, let me look into that area for you, and could not find a very practical book. That meant it's time to make that herself together with Jeroen. So they wrote a book, Dare to Ask. And one of the methods in that book is Question Storm. And now you see how we have invited Jeroen and Els to come here and do that together with us. So, 皆様、いらっしゃいますね。Jeroenさん、はい、どうぞ。今、始めまってください。はい。This is your cue. There you go. The floor
Thank
is
you. Thank you for announcing us in Japanese. Yunyen, impressive. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We are Els and Jeroen. And you might wonder, like, why are these people together in one box? You know, because is this COVID proof? But it is, because we are one household. So we are allowed to be in a Zoom box together. So don't worry about that. Well, I'm a researcher. Jeroen is a designer. And we got a bit frustrated by the emphasis in today's world and society on bold statements, instant answers, and quick solutions. So we thought, why not switch the emphasis to questions instead of answers? Because we feel that we should ask better questions, more questions, creative questions first before getting into opinions and answers. In our personal lives and in our professional lives, I feel that this can really be a value. So yeah, like Yunyan said, we decided to create an informal and playful book called Dare to Ask. Secret promotion over here. And we thought like it could help people to ask each other better questions and to create more meaningful conversations. And of course, in the end, find better answers. Because we felt like, hey, isn't it weird that in schools, we often get only graded for answers and not for our questions? Did any of you get grades for asking questions at school? Not really, no. Not like, hey, you get an A for your beautiful question.
Questionability.
Yeah, no, never. So that's quite weird. And also in our professional lives, you know, at work, during meetings, answers are also often valued much more than questions. Maybe even worse, that when you ask a lot of questions, they find you annoying at work. So, but we feel like, why isn't it professional to ask questions? You know, why not do like Einstein? He's a professional, right? And he said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes looking for the right question to ask and 5 minutes to find the answer. So, hey, we can learn from this. Quick question for you all. At what age do you think that humans, on average, ask the most questions per day? At what age did you, or do you, or will you ask the most questions per day? Can you put it in the chat, please? 5, 4, I see. 3, 2,
1.
7 years old. Somewhere between 4 to 10. That's a really wild guess. Yeah. 17.
First have to learn how to speak, of course.
Yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah. So most of you feel like at a very young age, not like when you're 70, you will ask the most questions. And that's totally correct, because research shows that around the age of 3 to 4, you are at your question peak. So you already had your question peak, unfortunately, but you are the world champion of asking questions when you're 4. On average, children ask at that age around 250 to 300 questions per day. So I would love us all to get into this childlike state again, and maybe, you know, try to get to that high score again of asking maybe 300 questions in the coming 50 minutes or something. All right. So let's discover our inner child again. And one of the methods that you can use to get into this curious and inquisitive mindset is question storming. Well, you probably all know about brainstorming, which is used to find answers and solutions and ideas. But why not start with question storming first? Because, you know, the questions define the answers. So we feel it's a bit more important to start out with that first. Well, you are probably all very curious people. That's probably why you also join this kind of concept like the Wednesday Web Jam. So you have high expectations of you. So feel the pressure.
No pressure.
And I think in essence, you know, I feel that as curious people and inquiring people, it is also our task to get everyone around us also to ask more questions. And question storming is a very yeah, accessible and playful way to engage children, family, colleagues, teams, organizations into asking more questions. So what we're going to do right now is you are going to join a live question storm and experience what it feels like to be in one. Are you ready? I hope you are. Well, you can do a question storm in various ways. You can do it online, offline. You can do it plenary, collectively, individually. So there are many ways to do it. But as Yunyen also said, today we are not going to use breakout rooms. We will do it collectively and online. So we will use a mural, and I hope most of you are familiar with mural. We will use a collective mural. And we won't share any slides. So it's just, you can just, you know, focus on us and on, oh, hey, wait, Yunyen is going to share one slide.
Just one slide. I was one click too fast, perhaps.
Yeah. For
Is it
explaining
okay?
the mural. Yeah, go ahead.
If you go into mural, you will see a lot of post-its. These are blue post-its. And on the right side, you can see if you want to write in these sticky notes, you double click on the post-it. If you want to zoom in or out, on the right-hand side at the bottom, you will see this magnifier to get a larger view or a less large view. If you want to move around on the whole canvas, click and drag. So get your cursor on something white, click on it, and then drag. That's it. Okay. Back to you, Els.
All right, thank you so much for explaining. And if you have any questions, you know, you can always put them in the chat and the crew will help you out in getting around the mural. So we will use a mural. And you will have to put your questions in the mural on the sticky notes like you just saw. Because this group is quite big, like we have 51 participants right now, and sometimes a mural can be slow when there's like 50 persons inside. We will divide you into two murals. These murals are exactly the same, so don't worry about that. But we hope it will work a bit more smoothly technically when we have less people in one mural. So listen carefully to know in which mural you should be. So first question, are you a morning person? Like me, I'm quite tired right now because it's the end of the afternoon, but are you a morning person? Then you can go to mural M, M of morning.
So then if you are an evening person like me, I wake up like usually after
around
8:30. I'm best in late afternoon, and in the evening you'll go to mural E. Mural E for evening.
And if you are thinking like, huh, I'm an afternoon person, or you don't know which type you are, we are sorry, you will have to leave this session because it's not for you. Just kidding. You can just choose a mural. As long as you take a look, like if there's around 25 people already in it, then you might have to go to the other mural. But the mural links will be shared in the chat. Morning persons go to mural M.
Evening persons go to mural E.
We will give you a minute or two to get there.
I can show you who is there.
Oh, I'm already seeing a lot of people in there. Very good.
This is the evening canvas.
Yes, everybody getting in there? Yeah. Can we go on? Or shall I just wait for a sec? 70 people in the evening mural. Ah, okay, okay. That's already an interesting research result, actually. 19 in morning, sounds good, sounds good. All right, so people, listen
Quite
up.
balanced, yes.
Yes, balanced is good. It's good, yeah. So we will start with the question storm right now. A question storm always needs a starting point, a question focus. This cannot be a question, because if you would use a question as a starting point for your question storm, you will already be thinking of answers and ideas. So what you can use, hey, somebody is moving my stuff in my mural. I see it in the back of my eye. Please put it back. I thought I locked it, but you know, these children, they find everything when it's something loose. Okay, you will use a question focus. It cannot be a question, but it can be, for instance, a visual, a statement, a topic, a quote. It can be an audio file or a sound bite. So anything like this, as long as it's not a question. We've chosen a specific topic for you, which is a slogan or a theme that is often used during the Wednesday web jams, which is, listen up, the topic of your question storm is failing forward, there's no other way. So this is a topic that you will be question storming about. Jeroen will now take you through all the kinds of exercises to get you to ask a lot of questions on this topic.
Hi, okay, so we got about 45 minutes and I will help you to generate as many questions regarding this topic as we can. So the first thing that we're gonna do in the mural is actually a so-called purge, which means that we're gonna generate as many questions as we can, and quantity is more important than quality. So we're already happy when there is a question mark behind it. The more, the better. So yeah, actually, when also like pay attention, like when you saw the Wednesday Web Jam statement philosophy, what was like the first question that popped up in your mind? So go back to this moment and maybe you intuitively, immediately already had like a question that came to mind when you saw failing forward, there's no other way. And that's immediately going to be your first question that you can put in. So when everybody's ready, we are going to start creating as many questions as we can, and we're going to do it for 3 whole minutes. Let's go.
And put it on the blue Post-its, please. Not on the white canvas, like some of you are doing now, because this canvas will move. It will move because it hides the other exercises. Just pick any random Post-it sticky notes and write your questions on it.
So as many questions as you can. Failing forward, there's no other way.
Looks good, people. See a lot of.
Hello, this is Sujata here. I just gotten.
We are in the midst of doing an exercise already, so maybe you can wait a bit and just see what's happening.
Oh, I can see many questions coming in. Wow, looking good. So about 40 seconds left. Any questions are fine. Short ones, long ones, complicated ones, easy ones, simple ones. 20 seconds. About 10 seconds. Last moments for entering your questions. Okay, your final question. Time's up. All right, people, how did that go? If you like have any ideas, or if you want to share how it felt to produce as many questions as you could in 3 minutes, then we'd love to hear it with a video and some audio. So is there anybody who likes to share what it's like to come up with this amount of questions in such a short amount of time? What it felt like, and if you had any trouble?
I think it was really interesting because you don't use any criticism on what to ask. So you might come up with some really interesting questions that if you really try hard to think of good questions, you might not even come up with.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's like quantity over quality. It's just like put it out there.
Let it go.
It's kind of like a question diarrhea, maybe. Like
yeah. Also, if we start to kind of combining weirdly the questions that are there, then it will take us somewhere totally new.
Yes, probably.
Good approach.
And that's also a nice bridge to the next exercise, actually.
Yeah, can I share one feeling just quickly? I feel that if it's about about content that you're very familiar with, like this, I have so many obvious questions first that kind of go through blah 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 that are basically like everything I already kind of asked myself anyway, and it was like, but I have to go through that mountain of things that were in my mind, and then the time was very short. But I felt like after I ended like those questions I kind of already had, that then it became more difficult, but the questions became more interesting. So I found, I don't know, it's interesting to kind of, I noticed that I was like, yeah, of course, yeah, no, and more interesting. That's not an interesting question. So I did kind of judge it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to first go through the more obvious questions, and that leads you to a deeper layer that actually helps you to get to deeper questions and more interesting questions maybe. But in this stage, any question is good. So thank you for sharing. The next thing that we're going to do, we'd like to ask everybody for 3 minutes to have a look at the mural, and then, well, of course, have a look at your own questions, but also glance over other questions and get inspired by what others asked. And this will help you to, well, get inspired to generate even more questions or combine them or mix them up. So the next column, the Get Inspired column, is now open and available to put in new questions that have been inspired by others. Let's go, 3 minutes.
Looks good, people. Keep going. Just read some of the other questions and get inspired.
Very nice, even more questions are showing up. Looks very promising, looks very good. So about 30 seconds left for getting inspired by all the questions that are there. Getting there, time's almost up. Everybody ready? And we're immediately continuing to the next exercise for creating even more questions after the getting inspired part. And what we're going to do now, I would like to ask you to think of a superhero, or maybe a famous person, or an idol, or maybe even your mother. Could also be a superhero to you, of course. And the whole meaning of this exercise is to get another perspective. So we're going to look at the questions we already have, but then through the eyes of somebody else. We're going to have a look at this topic. Excuse me. We're going to have a look at this topic through the eyes of somebody else. So failing forward, there's no other way. What would Beyonce think about this, or Superman, or your mom, or who knows? Who knows?
So imagine an idol or a superhero, and then think through the eyes of this person or thing. What would they ask about failing forward? There's no other way.
Let's go for 3 minutes. So the superhero column is open now.
Els, do you look in the WhatsApp, please?
So I hope you've chosen a superhero, and there are some minutes left. Okay, 1 minute left for choosing your superhero and to look through different eyes at failing forward. There's no other way. What would he, she, or it ask about this? Half a minute. Half a minute left. Okay, time is up. 3 minutes are over. 3 minutes are over. Okay, we'd all like to ask you to share in the chat which superhero you chose and what he, she, or it asked about the theme, the statement. So share in the chat which superhero you chose and what his favorite question was. We're very curious to see in the chat.
A friend, I see.
Yeah.
Buddha, that man.
Oh.
Nice. Mom.
Pikachu.
Very interesting question
Yeah.
from Pikachu. Oprah Winfrey. Superman.
We must fail forward to be a better
A
person.
K-pop idol.
Oh.
MacGyver.
He would have a solution, but we're here to ask questions now.
Nelson Mandela. Nice.
And what are the questions those superheroes asked? Oh, that's an exclamation mark by Barack Obama.
Barack Obama is not asking a question.
No, he's not asking a
question. Yes, and can we? Yeah. Better.
Yes. That's a very relevant question indeed.
Yeah.
All right, keep on sharing those superheroes and what they asked about the theme. But now we're getting to a point where we're gonna change the theme a little bit, that we're gonna generate questions about. Because what will happen if we're gonna change the theme to the following? Don't fail forward, there is another way.
So that's the opposite twist. So what we're going to do, you think, we turn the topic around and say, don't fail forward, there is another way. What type of question would you ask for this topic?
What will happen? What will show up? We have 2 minutes. 2 minutes in the next column.
Oh.
So stick to the column, the opposite twist. Opposite twist. For generating as many questions as you can
on
don't fail forward, there is another way. Don't fail forward, there is another way. What questions pop up in your mind?
"30 seconds left."
Just a little bit of time left. 4, 3, 2, 1. And I hope you generated even more questions in this opposite twist. And then finally, in the next column, it's called the favorite question. You'll find it next to the opposite twist column in mural. We are wondering which question or what question resonates most with you. So you have to choose one question that is most inspiring to you or is smiling at you from one of the previous columns. And drag it to the favorite question column. And we have 2 minutes to do so. So drag your favorite question to the favorite question column.
Only one.
Only one.
You really have to choose.
Choose one favorite one.
Choose wisely.
I see some questions move.
It can be your own question or someone else's question. Whatever is your favorite one.
So maybe you might get in a little cursor fight. More people trying to move the same question. So one person One question.
Okay, almost time. Be sure to pick your favorite question.
I like to move it, move it.
Are the favorites hidden? Is someone asking? Are the favorite questions hidden? Oh, no.
No, 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 no.
It's time. Okay. So I see some favorite questions being picked. And of course, this is always the hardest part to really select and cherry pick the ones you like most. In a question storm, you can also choose using specific criteria if you would want to. Say you are working on a project, you could choose criteria like the most impactful on our question for our organization, or the most irritating question that we really need to answer, or whatever criteria you pick. For now, we just tried it out with using your own personal favorite. But you can also, play around with this. So you have a favorite question. Now it's time to find answers, but we're not going to think of answers, but we're going to brainstorm about ways to find answers. So how could you find answers to this favorite question? Which type of activities would you have to do? Which type of persons would you have to speak to, or whatever your activity will be? Please put it in the column which says ways to find answers. So put any idea in there that you feel like, oh, when I do this, I might find an answer to this favorite question of yours. So 2 minutes to write down any ideas you have to find answers. Go. One minute left for all your ideas to find answers.
10 seconds. Mic on. And time's up.
Okay.
Okay. How did that go?
I saw some ideas like asking more questions and to all kinds of people I saw in your sticky notes, looking on social media for answers, observing to get an answer, interview a specific person to get an answer, hang out posters outside in the streets to get answers. So all kinds of ways to get closer to the answer or maybe multiple answers to your question. So well done, everybody. And this is how we turn the question storm into a concrete and practical action plan. So it's not just about question storming and having a lot of questions and then, you know, go to sleep and get on the next day with your normal life, but also to get yourself thinking like, okay, what could I do to find answers? This is for us the part of the question storming that we wanted to share with you and to experience together with you. And as we said, there are many ways to do a question storm. Today we did a collective online one where you did a lot individually in the mural. And Jeroen and I, we would love to know how you experienced this type of question storm, this specific setup. Could you write down again on the mural, last time that we will go to the mural, I promise, some tips and tops for us. So what did you really enjoy about this question storm, the way that we did it right now today? And what do you think we could do to improve it, to make it even better? So please put your tips and tops in the mural. 2 minutes for this.
Pardon, could you tell me again, please?
Yeah, for sure. So we would like to have some feedback from you about how you experienced doing this question storm. So could you write on a sticky note on the end of the mural, which says tips and tops, one tip about how we could improve it, and one top about what you really liked about the question storm. Okay, so write down your last sentence, finish your last sentence, please, in the mural.
Thank you very much for sharing.
And then we will go to the normal screen again. because we would love to see some more faces right now. Well, this was the question storm, so to say, at least in this type of setup. And yeah, we are really interested in hearing more about your experiences, thoughts, feelings, questions you might have on the question storm, of course. So anyone who wants to ask something, share something, feel free and take the stage.
Asking is always fine, of course.
Okay, brave ones, go.
Grab the mic.
Hi, thanks. That was really great. Like, it was lots of fun. I have one question. So this kind of like tool that you've used within the process, so all of them were questions and all, like in all the exercises. Is there any point that you also expect, let's say, the participant to give answers, or is it only based on questions because it's a question storm?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we were also thinking about how to finish off the question storm. Yeah. And we ourselves were more prone, or our preference would be to not think of answers, but only to how to get to the answers. And then maybe do a session later on where everybody would share what type of answers they would have found on a specific question when you're working, for instance, in a team or in an organization or whatever. When you have like a shared interest in the topic. Now it was a very general topic, of course. But what is your preference? What would you like to do?
Like my first preference was like, oh my God, no answers. But now that I've gone through the whole process, I think it's great because it forces you to just identify and question. Because in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, my questions are so simple and like, is it even worth it? But then by the third one, I thought, oh, okay, finally, it's a bit intelligent. You know, I can add. But yeah, I think it's a great tool. Thank you for like sharing it with us.
Welcome. Thank you for your question. Yes, Katja.
Yeah, in general, I think it is more difficult to generate questions than to think about answers. So I guess in the creative process or in innovation, design thinking, we should work more on doing questioning, what people in organizations actually not so used to. So sometimes I think it helps to, people sometimes they ask me, but how do I know what is a good question? So what I tried with a colleague, we were classifying creative thinking and questioning. So we classified 3 kinds of question, which is a provocative, the imagination question, and the processal question, so questions about the process. Do you work with classifications of questions? Is it helpful, or what is your experience?
In general, just when you really start out with the purge element, open question storming, then we just say nothing. So we feel it's best to just say like, everything is good, all questions are good, just anything that comes to mind. You don't have to polish them also, just write them down like you would say them, because we feel that it should be accessible to anyone. And I think when I already hear this terminology like provocative, I would say like maybe not everybody knows this terminology, and you would have to explain it already. And people start thinking like, oh, maybe I have to be very intelligent. So for me, it would I would maybe use it afterwards, that you could say like, okay, maybe now you can cluster your questions.
Make a selection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not up front, I think, just to keep it very open. But then later on, so for instance, we didn't do an exercise today that we also sometimes do, is where you turn your open questions into closed ones and closed ones into open ones. So then you also learn about these type of questions. So that's also something that could be an exercise that you could say like, which ones are the provocative ones? Which ones are the, what did you say, challenging process ones? Yeah, it could be like an extra exercise.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that was my purpose, because doing question can be seen actually as an exercise for mental exercise, kind of mental gymnastics.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah.
We have also Jen, raising her hand.
Just a comment. I really like it as it's almost like practice for how might we brainstorming in design thinking, where they also give you these different angles to approach from how you phrase the question. The guys that think wrong have something similar, but it's after you've come up with an idea, then they say, well, here's some prompts. Have a how question, have a why question, have a when question, have a where question. And you just start asking these, it's almost like the black hat, but giving you triggers. It's like, who's going to pay for this? Where is this going to come from? Who's going to be our first customer? Just as triggers to help you think more deeply about an idea. So yeah, I love it.
That would be interesting too. And that was from Think Wrong? Or
Think
what?
Wrong, yeah.
Ah, super. Thank you very much. Yeah, sounds good.
Ilana, your turn.
I'm curious.
Hi,
Hi, how are you? I'm curious. Sometimes when we think about having an insight, we think about reaching to an answer. But in this activity, I was wondering, is for you that the insight can be the question itself, if you have experienced it like this?
Yeah, I think so too, that you can feel like, huh? Hey, I never thought of asking this question on this specific topic. Why didn't I think of that before? Yeah, I think that could also be an insight.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Fieke?
I would like to ask, do you have a specific question that you think is especially beautiful?
Well,
Most beautiful question you can think of.
First of all, we like any question, any sentence with a question mark behind it. But then the most beautiful question, yeah, that's a good question actually.
I think maybe
hard to answer.
I think maybe related to what Ilana was saying, I think the most beautiful question is the question that surprises yourself the most. I would say that would for me be the most beautiful, because I think someone else also mentioned this at the beginning, or somewhere in the chat, that sometimes people really want to think of, oh, is this the right question, or the most right question, or the most beautiful question? And when people take this as a goal, it already limits them. So if I would have asked you, only think of the most beautiful questions to ask, then you would be like, oh, really? You're
what I mean is the category of what's the meaning of life kind of questions. Questions that are with you all the time, that are a part of you or something.
No, but what I personally also enjoy are like questions that make you look to ordinary daily stuff in a different way. So suddenly you wonder, like, how can cars roll in the street? Or how is it possible that my bike is moving faster than I can walk? And then you can have like different eyes, and you're looking at the wheels and they're like spinning and moving. Like, imagine seeing a car in the street, and what if you didn't know that this car had wheels? Like, would you understand how it was moving? Then it suddenly looks like something magical. So then asking questions about ordinary daily things in life, that is what I personally like to do and what I enjoy. Yeah, because it makes you
more
think
aware.
and look with other eyes, actually.
Yeah.
Different perspective.
I think that's the designer side of the look at the objects in your daily life and question those. Yeah.
Wonder, yeah. Yeah.
One very last question, one from Ishita Yadav, who's short on bandwidth. You do mention how sometimes people feel asking too many questions is annoying. Is there a mindset to handle questions in a constructive manner? And what would you think of the common statement, well, that's a good question, but do you have a solution for it?
Yeah, that's also a good one. Yeah. That you already have to have an answer ready. Otherwise you are not allowed to ask the question. Yeah, well, I would say that all depends on how you ask the question. I think for someone else to perceive it as irritating or as inviting. So if you would say like, but how about, how much does it cost even, you know? Then it already feels like you are like challenging someone's idea or topic, attacking. Yeah. But if you would just ask like, oh, very interesting topic, how much would it cost? I'm just wondering, you know, it's a very different way of asking. So I think in the tonations and the whole way that you ask something is very crucial in getting, you know, people on board for your answering your question.
And next to this, I also believe like if you ask a lot of questions, it's very like culturally related. So maybe in Asia, it could be seen as like too much, while in Europe and maybe in the Netherlands, where we're quite outspoken, that it's more common actually to ask questions. And yeah, the way you ask questions, it's key. So if you're very curious, then yeah, I think you can learn a lot.
So I can imagine how schizophrenic Yunyan might feel sometimes between her Dutch and Asian personality. But let's see if she can answer this. Is this a moment to round it up and close our session, Yunyan?
This is very much a moment to close this session. And I do that by thanking Jeroen and Els for this hour and helping us to question storm. Also, that Els actually bridged this session to the next one. And I'm going to show you who will be here. This guy wonders, imagination, what is it worth? Can we measure it? How can we measure it? Should we measure it? So Maarten Juriaanse will take us into his imagination or other spots to discover what is there. Is it measurable? Imagination. Okay. And what do you need for next session? A very crucial tool. So come and bring your tool.
Yeah, you must have a stock of 300 of those.
At least.
The pandemic period.
At least. Thank you for being with us. Stay with us. If you have the time, we will go into backstage. And I would say for those who have to leave, bye-bye for now.
So.
And it is.
That was very different.
Backstage
different
time.
What does that mean? It was very different.
No, I mean, no, I like it. No, it's because we didn't do any breakouts groups. So if we usually do breakout groups, and so now we were collective. When there's breakouts, there might also be silent groups. We don't know because we don't see them. So we're good. But now there's like everyone's together, and there was these, so people were thinking, and we saw them moving post-its and stuff. So, but it was interesting when they were, because there was sort of this like, oh, it's silent.
It was not silent. It was not silent. I could feel the neurological vibes going up.
Yeah,
it didn't feel silent, not at all.
No, it was
to me.
I missed the static humming. And so there was nothing happening. I thought, is my sound off? So like, no, it's not. I'll just switch my sound on discreetly so that everyone can get just a little bit of static sound in the background.
So I have a question.
My contribution today.
I have a question, Elsie. So I just something I was thinking of. So yeah, the sort of the art of asking questions. I mean, it depends, obviously, because I think what was, especially in the end, the things that were maybe mixed up every now and then was the purpose of asking the questions, right? So are you asking a question, you know, so for instance, we talked about the cultural sense. It's not sometimes polite to ask a direct question. But that's different than when you are like in a session where you try to find a solution and you're kind of doing brainstorming or question storming. So you know what you're trying to do. If you have a conversation with someone, a personal conversation, ask someone a question, that's very different than asking a question. Because so is it important, and for at least, or what is your opinion about when you start the question storm or questioning things or whatever you want to call it, to set the stage, to create a space for that, and to have sort of like an agreement on this is how we are going to behave, and this is how we are going to ask questions, so we don't feel threatened, or whatever, it's sort of, or we feel free and enough to ask these questions.
Yeah, well, I think indeed in a question storm, you agree that it's fine to ask a lot of questions. It's like in a brainstorm that you make an agreement not to judge and to generate as much as possible. So indeed, I'd see it as a safe environment where it's fine to produce, where it's fine to create and to ask.
And I feel that this is also something that we could add, for instance, that we would say like, okay, any question is good. It's about like quantity over quality. Don't worry too much about your questions, just let them flow. And we won't judge each other on the type of questions. We won't challenge each other's questions. And what you say about when you ask a question to another person is of course different than from asking questions on a topic. Like today, the question storming is mostly on a topic, while the other things is more like interpersonal interest.
Exactly. Yeah, but if you're a researcher, Els, so you do research and you can do one-on-one interviews with people, right? So that's different. That's a different set, but it's also, and it's another art of asking questions. So it has a different context, right? So then you ask questions in a different way because you want to.
Well, that depends, because when I really have to do interviews for my work, it always is about a specific topic. So I make a checklist of questions. So I question storm myself about like, what would I want to know about this topic from this person? And then I would ask these questions. It's not always so different.
So Marianne has a few great questions on the comments. Els and Jeroen, if you could just go there and
the chat.
She's asking on the chat, are you asking questions in order to get answers, or are you asking questions in order to open minds to possibilities? Or are you asking questions in order to expose needs?
I think that I felt like that was, is it Arnie? I felt like that was his question to begin with, that the question storm really isn't about asking questions to get answers. And my own thought when we were talking about our reactions to the question storm was that I could see bringing this into a situation where there are polarized opinions, and using the question storm to stop the solution jumping. So that would be asking questions not for the sake of finding answers, but asking questions for the sake of exposing ideas or exposing vacancies, etc.
Peeling the onion.
Yeah.
The layers of the onion. Something.
Or
like
you also mean like vacancies of knowledge, maybe, or
vacancies
like
of knowledge, yes, yeah.
That have to be investigated regarding this topic.
Yeah, but I think we are on the same page, that for us it would be mostly about, opening people's minds and to see that there's maybe even more than what you're just would see on a topic right away. And especially when you do these exercises that you have to think from another person's perspective. In this case, we took a superhero, but it could also be a stakeholder in a project, or, you could also use it in a business sense then, but to also get you out of your own mind in that sense. And like seeing a lot more questions is also, I think, being more open to alternatives. I hope, at least.
Yeah. I feel that, and I totally agree. So, but if I feel, and this is, I think you're doing this anyway, but I think that in general, you could, I think, say that if you know why a person is asking you a question, it helps. If you don't know why they're asking you a question, your interpretation can take you to all kinds of places, you know. So you're like, why is that person asking me a question? So something that I think is really useful, specifically one-on-one, and obviously because of the setting, if it's a question storming, you're with the group and it's like a kind of a brainstorm kind of activity, you set the stage, you know what you're trying to do. On one-on-one, it's always very helpful to say, well, I'm asking you this question because I want to know this and this and this. And this is why I'm asking you the
I know
question.
what you mean, because I also talked about this with Michael Thorley, who's also done one of the sessions, right? And I think he also shared this with me, that he uses this in his practice also, that he would also always ask the other person, like, why are you asking this question specifically? So they would elaborate on it a bit more so you can understand the context of the question a bit better.
Yeah, because otherwise you're thinking like, you know, why is this question? Because are they judging me, or what are they trying to find out? So you just imagine someone asking you a question. So it's a really interesting way of, you can do that all the time. Like, you know, every time you ask someone a question, just think about including in your question the reason why you're asking that question. Mm-hmm. That changes the conversation completely. It's a really interesting trick, but I think you're doing that intuitively. You're doing that anyway. Yeah. Because you do set the stage, and you kind of that's making the safe space for people. Yeah. But making that more conscious, I think, is such a useful trick, but useful way of relating to other people.
Method, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it also makes you think about, you know, why am I asking this question?
So what kind of camera do you have hanging in the background? Like, I also love photography. Is it mid-size, or is it like 35 millimeter? 35 millimeter.
Yeah, it's a 35 millimeter. You really don't want to know how many cameras I have.
So this is also an example that you can use a question to change the topic.
Yes. So yeah, what about that? Yeah, but yeah, you're interested in photography. But it's interesting because if you say, what kind of camera do you have there? If you're saying, hey, I'm also a photographer, I'm interested in photography, or I'm a collector. What is the camera there? So now we know the context of your question.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I think that's the, but it's a M3 like.
Yeah, with some questions it might be obvious, you know, like if you ask, "Are you single?" So it's like, yeah, I can see where you come from. But in a business situation, in a business situation, that certainly might be a very interesting discussion.
Yeah. We want to know if you can work 24 hours a day. Are you single?
Yeah.
It's different than just the question, while are you single?
It's also a good way to avoid the question, actually. Like if somebody is asking you a question like this and you don't feel like answering it straight away, then you can just ask the question back, like, why are you asking this? So it gives you a little bit more time to think about an answer, and the other person has to sort of think again.
It's postponing.
You can not answer and just directly reflect it back. Say, for instance, Pedro, you are asking me, are you single? You're like, how about you? Are you single?
Yeah.
and yeah, sometimes, so occasionally.
All right. Okay.
Okay, let's give the audience a chance. Give the audience a chance. Jimena, was it you who raised the hand? Go ahead.
And I think also, maybe, I'm not sure, but I think maybe more like a comment or a question. I don't know. Ian knows that I have trouble with framing my questions, but more like a comment. I think that the part where we had to think about a superhero, and just like in the fact of thinking of somebody else and what would that person think, that was I don't know, like to me, it was like, paralyzed for a moment, and thought on like being also empathic, and so trying to be like in someone else's shoes and mind, and okay, it wasn't like an easy process, and I enjoyed it a lot doing that, because I could see the first part, of course, when you're yourself just writing questions, or to me was like easy, but then it was like, what would the other person think? And I think back to, if I connect it to like workplace nowadays, that's true. Like I can have lots of questions, but I don't know what my colleagues might have as well, and that can be also like very enriching to first maybe think what would others have in their mind, and in some way just get together and share generally what would those questions be, because maybe I can making some assumptions in the end, but the whole point is just to maybe have this shared context and communication together. So thank you both.
So actually, to answer Anupa's question about can we have a conversation only with questions, we would actually play that game around lunchtime in my team a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
And so we would try to see who would fail. So we could, like, someone would say time for lunch, and then the game would start. So people would get up and go out for lunch, because that's a common thing to do in Portugal. And suddenly, like, it would last for 5, 7, 6 minutes perhaps, until someone would fail to come up with a decent question. But it, that thing lasted for a few months until it got annoying. But it was really interesting to see how every sentence can suddenly become a question. Yeah.
And then it's not enough to just raise the pitch of your voice in the end of the sentence.
No, because then sometimes a lot of questions started to be standardized in a way that we would say, is that a good question? And so it's still a question. And when everyone else started to realize that we could have so many of these pop-up questions that would be easy to place, then the game stopped being funny. I
think that's the super nice game to
but
play.
for a while, it was quite fun.
Yeah, we should do it more. Yeah. And also when returning to I think Ximena, when she told about shared about the superhero, looking at from someone else's perspective. This is also something that they use in psychotherapy, because for the book we also interviewed people on how they ask questions. So we also interviewed, for instance, a psychotherapist, and she told us that she uses circular questions, which means also about like, what do you think your mother would think about this or ask about this? What do you think your brother would say about this? They really, for them, it's like circling back questions to get you out of your own mindset.
Yeah, and so then your answer, and the answer would be, and what does your brother think about this then? What does your mother think about this?
Yeah, but it's already in an intonation, Arne.
Yeah. My answer is in my question.
Yeah,
exactly.
Are you single? That's kind of weird. It's like, you should have someone.
Yeah, I once answered that in the very wrong way.
You're so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I do have another question for you. I do have another question. I read your book a while ago, and then I was surprised that there is a certain institute in England, if I'm not mistaken, the Question Institute, something like that. Could you tell a little bit more about that?
Yes, during our research, we also, of course, stumbled upon all kinds of other people who were already researching all the topic of asking questions. And we saw the Right Question Institute from the USA. And they are actually focused on, they started out as for empowering small children, like school kids and their parents from like more, how do you call it? Underachieving neighborhoods, to help them to get the skill and the dare to ask questions, for instance, asking questions to the teachers or during parent-teacher evenings. These parents and these kids were quite afraid about asking the right questions. And they created also a method, the right question. No, that's the institute, but they have like the right question technique to ask more questions. And we actually did some workshops online with them, and then we actually built on their method and created a bit more creative method, because theirs is a bit more formal. So we build on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
So we have
Hugo.
Hugo, yeah.
Yeah. I was listening very carefully to what we were saying or sharing about the questions, but there's also an emotional part that can have impact before, during, and after the questions, because here we were speaking about, okay, how can we fail forward with questions, but we have a positive approach, trying to figure it out to the future. We have a good environment. But when we are talking to individuals or companies, normally the subjects of the triggers can be problems or problem solving or challenges or things that are not working well. And people can be affected by the effect of the question seen on the wall. How do you kind of prepare people, like, okay, we will set up like a transparent contract or a transparent manifesto. This is a safe space. How do you engage people, or do you work previously in order to create a psychologically safe space for people to cope with all the feelings and emotions, not the good ones, obviously, that can come up with the questions? Because if I work in a company and I see, okay, this is a real question and I'm suffering about the problems of this question for years and years, and is it going to be today that is going to be solved, or then I leave 3 hours later and anything was solved, and then I'll go, I don't know, bumping up to my home. So how can we prepare people to cope with the emotional things of this question exercise?
And sensitive questions maybe as well. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Well, it's interesting that you're asking this, because we had a conversation last week with an organization that wanted, someone reached out to us and they wanted to maybe do a question storm because they were challenging the way that the organization is structured. But then we asked them this person some questions, and we felt this is not the right moment for them to do this type of question storm because of what you're saying. We felt there were like two camps. They were divided in two camps, and everybody would not be as open to the topic of the question storm that the person was proposing. So sometimes maybe also not the moment for a company to do a question storm, because everybody has to be on board, like you say, first. And we are not like a change managers or something. We are not going to create a like cultural change and change the whole culture in the organization. So I think it only works when a team really wants to explore a topic. That's the first thing that we have to be sure of.
Yeah, I understand it, but sometimes the sense of urgency or some shifts like we are living today with the pandemics and COVID, probably we now have to perform question work that we would not choose to do it, I don't know, 6 months ago. So what you are saying, if I understand, okay, there is a moment for the questions, but if we don't challenge people with the questions, when will it be the right moment for a company to work with you, for example?
Yeah, Union.
Yeah, I like it what Hugo says. If this is not the moment, that it feels uncomfortable and like. If this is not the moment, when then?
When then?
Yeah. Oh, Hugo, let's go into that together. We are ready for it to ask the questions.
Yeah.
Then it's good to beforehand have an intake asking these kind of questions, actually.
And I think also depends very much on the question focus that you will choose, because we normally also help organizations to create this focus, this starting point. Because if you would leave it up to like someone in the organization who has like a, how do you call it? They are too involved into the topic themselves. It could be something like, our organization should not exist anymore or something, I don't know. And or this department should be deleted. And then you can already feel that this is not open enough to start the question storm. So I think it's also about finding together, co-creating the topic to question storm on. That will also define like that everybody will feel comfortable enough to ask questions about it.
Yeah. Or you could create a mural battlefield and invite both sides and say, to make the questions that you want the other ones to answer. And you know, it's safe because they can't, especially if it's online, so they won't be stabbing each other. So
well, it's actually a good point. Well, although I'm not taking you very seriously, Pedro, but as per usual. But I do have to say that I did notice that sometimes online, because there's a little bit of a disconnect, which is not good. But oddly enough, it seems to make people feel safer to answer or to certain questions or be part of something that they might be uncomfortable with in real life, if you will. Yeah. I don't know why, but is that something that you've recognized as well? So Els, are you doing online research, right? So actually, I think I've been interviewed at you.
Yeah, if you talk about from the research perspective, I think people like generally online, they feel a sense of anonymity more, and they just throw out anything. Yeah.
No, exactly, right. So
like, unfiltered.
That's fascinating.
But for me, as a qualitative researcher, I want to preferably be in the same room with someone else, because I can see the whole non-verbal cues also.
Yeah.
And these are not visible online. So that leaves a part of the understanding of how someone feels and why they are asking a question. You can also, read a lot from their body language.
Right.
Okay. So now that this is the backstage and we can be silly enough, we cannot finish today's session without acknowledging our new person, Patricia's new hairstyle. And so that's my moment to embarrass them too, but also to say hi to them. And I can see Anupa going like, why do I have to put up with this?
We have like so many other pressing questions.
It looks great.
Thank you. It was just a quick one, like which I tried to do on my own, DIY.
You cut it yourself?
Yeah, with just like a normal pair of scissors lying around in the house. Yeah.
Oh.
Impressive.
No, it was just like the shock that I had from my last time's experience was quite horrid, so I couldn't make a mistake again.
And there you go, how a question pops up, this kind of answer is wonderful.
I like having two presenters in the same box because they can do things like, no, it's this answer. No, you have to do this. And like that, yeah. No, she said that. No, it's this thing like there. Like that. That's very funny but that's when I said it's very different. That was also very different because that's never happened. So we can't say to each other like, no, Pedro, that's really not.
That is a weird guy.
No,
yeah. Never again with him. Never.
You can't say because it's all public. And I noticed because you're sitting next to each other that the little nudges you can give each other, which you do in a real space.
Yeah, exactly.
We can never do. I'm missing that. I'm missing those little, because with Pedro, I used to when we run workshops together, we have a lot of fun doing that. Like,
exactly. Like, you take this question. No, you take it. Damn, I have no idea what to tell them. No, you take this one.
Yeah, and I can give them little notes like, look at this. It's really weird. I miss that. I see you too, and I think, oh, I miss being close to people. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, we hope to be live again soon with all of you. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great. So anyway.
And it's about time, Yunyan. Or
yeah. Let's say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for being with us. See you next week with Yunua. Bye-bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Arigato gozaimasu.
1, 2, 3.